Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University, with undergraduate and graduate programs part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. Well, just as we were getting used to those lime-colored bikes around the metro area, now we have electric scooters to deal with. Dozens of these lime scooters and their rival Black Bird counterparts have suddenly appeared. Just like the ride-share bikes, they're available for rent for short periods of time. Not everybody's happy about these things zipping in and around traffic and pedestrians. Joining me in studio to talk about pluses and minuses is Daniel Hill of the Riverfront Times. He's taken it upon himself to take a very close look at these two-wheeled devices. Daniel, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
What is it? People just don't want to walk anymore?
Well, I think these scooters are clearly the future of walking.
Apparently. They sure popped up in a hurry here in St. Louis, and now you see them almost everywhere.
The Bird ones came first, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, something like that. They just popped up just for a second, but Bird hadn't even applied for the proper permits at that time. They just kind of dumped them all over the city. Lime, as you know from the bikes, already kind of had a foothold. So once scooters were included in the laws that allowed the rideshare bikes to be all over the place, Lime was able to kind of get the jump on it. They made them pull all the Bird ones off of the streets, and they just dropped those back off this past weekend on Friday.
You didn't waste any time doing some experimenting on all of this yourself. Tell us about what your experience has been.
Well, I had heard about them. I had read about them in other cities and how they're just kind of the bane of people's existence in some of these other cities. And there's even there's an Instagram account that's pretty popular that's called birdgraveyard.com, and it's just video after video of people throwing them off of parking garages and into the sea and lighting them on fire and things like that. And so I was interested what all the fuss was about. And I spent on that first day, I think I rode, the first weekend that the Lime ones were in town, so this would have been 2 weekends ago when they came. I rode 8 of them. I just kind of hopped on one and took it as far as it would go until it ran out of juice, and then I had to I found a Lime bike, and I rode that until I found another scooter, and it was a whole ride-share day.
How long did it take for that one to run out of juice?
So I got maybe an hour and a half of straight riding on it before it died. I was able to go from the Del Mar Loop through Forest Park to the Central West End is where I was coming up on another scooter, but someone else got to it right when I got there, and then I had to figure something out.
What was that experience like for you, just traveling around that way?
It's moderately terrifying. Lime and Bird both want you to stay off of the sidewalks. They want you to ride in the road. And so, I don't know. Don, have you ever ridden a Razor scooter?
No.
Okay, so it's a Razor scooter that's just like a tiny little thing that's for kids. It's mostly for 12 and 14-year-olds and stuff like that. And this really just feels like an oversized Razor scooter with an electric engine on it. Mm-hmm. And cars are whipping by you, and kind of the thing is everyone in the cars is kind of mad at you because you're taking up the road. And then if you get in the bike lane, everyone in the bikes is kind of mad at you because you're taking up the bike lane. And I even had a pedestrian when I was in the loop yell at me from across the street, "Boo!" And I looked over, and he was looking me straight in the eye, and he said it again, and he said, "Boo!" And so I don't know why they make everyone so mad.
Well, neither do I, except the streets are getting kind of crowded, and bikes are difficult to see, motorcycles are difficult to see, and these things are even smaller than that.
Sure, and at least the Lime ones are at least bright green. The Bird ones are black and small. And now, granted, they have lights on them. They have a light in the front and a light in the back, but still, I kind of share your concern there, yes.
Do they have horns?
They got little bells. Although the ones on the Bird ones aren't super effective from what I could find, and the ones on the Lime ones, when I came back to ride one a couple days after they had first hit town, every one that I found already had the bell broken off of it and stuff like that. So
and every time a bell rings, another angel has gotten its star or something like that.
Another somebody on a scooter got ran off the road by somebody. Yes.
One of our producers, Evie Hemphill, like you, was curious about how these things were going to work, and she's a pretty much of an outdoors person. So she went out and did some experimenting herself last weekend. She took a couple of test drives.
I did. I wasn't expecting to, but I was downtown on Washington Ave, and I saw a cluster of the bird ones.
The black ones.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to just go ahead and download the app and try it out.
And how was it?
It was both really fun, more fun than I expected, and mildly terrifying. You're only going, I think, maybe 15 miles per hour, but it feels faster when you're standing like that with these little handlebars.
And you're downtown traffic, too.
Right. It was a Sunday morning, so I made sure I wasn't, going out in a really busy time or area. But, yeah, you are supposed to ride on the street.
Did you have a helmet?
The first time I didn't, and I'm a huge helmet advocate, actually, but I just felt like this might be the only time I see them. The second time, when I tried out the Lime, I definitely had my helmet with me.
Was one better than the other?
I would say the Lime felt even more fun because it seemed a little faster. Yeah, but I felt more in control with the bird and a little more my speed.
When you talk about having fun, just elaborate on that. What kind of fun are we talking about?
You hit this tiny little button, and it's this acceleration, and it feels a little bit out of control. I love riding bikes too, but you're just all you're doing is pressing your thumb down and feeling like you're flying along.
So is this something you would just do for fun, or how would you use it otherwise?
You know, the one that I parked near my place the other night was still there late at night when I went to bed, and I thought, if that's still there in the morning, I might take that to work tomorrow, 15-minute ride on a scooter or so rather than my bike. But in general, I think I would see it as a fun thing where you spot them and want to just go for a quick spin.
Now, I've heard you describe yourself as a bike nerd. Would you now describe yourself also as a scooter nerd?
I might get there. I hope that I continue to see them in the areas I go around because, yeah.
That's Evie Hemphill, one of our St. Louis On the Air producers, talking about her experiences on the new scooters we're seeing around town. Daniel Hill of Riverfront Times is with us in studio, and he has had similar kinds of experiences. Did you hear anything from Evie that you would agree with or disagree with?
I definitely think the Lime ones are faster, and they have a little speedometer on them too, so that kind of bears out. I managed to push one of those up to 29.3 miles an hour with the assistance of a large hill. And it felt like I was going to die.
Were you wearing a helmet?
I was not wearing a helmet.
Well, that's going at a speed in which you could do yourself some damage if you had a fall.
I certainly would have ended up doing and it's funny too because I ride mopeds pretty often, and I wear like a full face helmet with those things, and I just kind of grabbed one of these things on a whim. I don't have a bicycle helmet. I wasn't going to ride around with a motorcycle one. That seemed a little far. It's probably very dangerous, and I know that they do not. As a matter of fact, St. Louis even has laws on the books that you're supposed to wear a helmet if you ride one of these electric scooters. But
we'll see how that's is monitored by our police department.
I can't. I just figure they probably have better things to do.
Yeah, I'd like to get some comment from our listening audience to all of this if they've had experience with these scooters. So give us a call if you'd like to learn more about them from our local expert, now Daniel Hill of the Riverfront Times. 382-8255 is our number. That's 382-TALK. Send us an email to talk@stlpublicradio.org, or if you would prefer to send a tweet, do so at STL On Air. Daniel, among the things that you've written, and this gets back to the danger aspect of it, we are starting to see some trolley tracks reappear in the St. Louis area, and there is a problem here. Why don't you explain what that is?
Well, okay. So the trolley tracks, a two-wheeled vehicle, a bicycle, a moped, a scooter, will have trouble with the trolley tracks. The little gap that is created in the road from the fact that they're installed in the road. If your tire on any of those vehicles kind of pulls into it, it's enough to throw you completely off balance. And so one of the first things I did, because I had my own experience where I got hurt while I was riding on a moped on the tracks a couple years back. So I was interested when the scooters came to town, like how the tracks are going to run, into those in a way that might end up with people getting hurt. So I took them down. I took one of the scooters down to the the Del Mar Loop, and I was actually able to just wedge it in the gap that was created in the track. It stood on its own without a kickstand. That's enough as such that if somebody's riding one of those things in the street, as you're instructed to do, and just pops into the track just wrong, it's gonna just grab the wheels and grab the bike, and they're gonna go toppling end over end.
There's a picture of that in the Riverfront Times of that particular bike, is there not?
I did. I had to wait until there wasn't traffic coming so that I could wedge a scooter into the ground. But yeah, I took a picture from multiple angles because I just thought it was just kind of absurd.
I want to go back to that Instagram account for just a moment. I've looked at it, and what you've described is very accurate, obviously. But what's going on with people? I mean, do they hate them that much? Do you have any sense of why they're destroying these things?
Well, I get the sense that there's probably plenty of pedestrians that have been run into by somebody carelessly riding a scooter on the sidewalk, and there's probably plenty of bicyclists that have been annoyed by somebody being in their lane when they're going, and plenty of motorists. And I accidentally enraged our local skateboarding community by taking one of these scooters down to the skate park on the first day that we had it, and riding it around up there. And once our article went live and there was photos of that, skateboarders really strongly dislike scooters. They always have. It's an ongoing thing. So it just seems like, I don't know, they bring the ire up in anybody.
Yeah. We talking about, again, relating to the safety issue, we had Bill, one of our listeners, he lives downtown, works at Barnes Hospital, wrote to tell us that he's ridden both the Bird and the Lime bike. I love the concept and the rides. I think the Bird is inherently safer with larger diameter inflated wheels. The smaller the diameter, the more likely the wheel will get stopped in a hole or softer terrain. I rode through both sandy areas at Keener Plaza, and the Bird was unaffected while the Lime dug in and slowed suddenly. Do you have a preference of the two?
I prefer the Lime just because it's bigger and it feels more solid and it's a little quicker. But I will say, to Bill's point, when I took it off-roading at one point in time, I did not spot the hole in the ground, and I did go flying over my handlebars. So he might be onto something there.
I wonder if these things are going to last. I mean, you've got angry people and you've got dangerous potential.
So there's been some cities that have banned them outright. Usually once there's enough injuries and stuff like that, where it's sort of a public menace, and there's enough complaints from people that live in the town. But yeah, I don't know. It's unclear. The Lime bikes are still here, so.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit different.
Sure.
Bit. People are more used to the bikes. How would you use a scooter on a day-to-day basis, or would you, or just do it for fun or for a story?
Well, I think ideally what they're for is for areas that there would be a lot of walking, just walkable areas, and you could just hop on one and scoot if you need to get to where you need to go.
Parks, that sort of thing?
Sure, yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say is I think the most fun thing that you can do with them is if you get your hands on one or two and you bring a friend and you go to bike lanes around town, bike paths around town and stuff like that. In Forest Park, just ripping around those bike paths is pretty fun, and I wouldn't have done it otherwise because I'm a big, fat, out-of-shape guy that doesn't ride bikes. So
well, I'm not sure the bikers would be all that keen on the competition.
I don't think they love it, but what I did notice is when I'm riding around on those bike trails, I'm having a great time, whereas everybody that I see exercising is at least moderately unhappy looking in their face,
That's
I don't have
because
that
they're
going
exercise,
on.
of course, of course.
Exactly.
Apparently this has generated something of an entrepreneurial spirit as well. We had a voicemail this morning from Kevin, a listener in the Southampton neighborhood. He's currently working as a charger for Bird and a juicer for Lime, which means he's charging the batteries. He's out on the streets daily, picking up scooters with low batteries, charging them, and returning them to the streets. And here's what he had to say.
Over the past few days since the launch, I have been all around the city collecting scooters and talking with the riders and other interested persons. There's been a lot of excitement about the availability of these scooters, and also a lot of questions about how the service works and what the rules of the road are. I've seen some very reckless riding, and I've also seen some very cautious riding, but everyone I've seen has been absolutely enjoying being on those scooters.
All right, that is Bill, one of our listeners, and he's maybe making a buck or two
Sure,
out
indeed.
of all this, and good for him. Let's talk a little bit about how this all works. What does it cost to rent one of these things?
It's $1 to unlock, and this is for both Lime and for Bird. They have the same price structure. It's $1 to unlock the bike, and then it's 15 cents per minute after that. So it comes out to like $9-10 for that first hour.
Right. And how do you go about doing all of this? Of course, the new technology plays a part, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got to use your phone. You end up taking a picture of your driver's license because you have to have a driver. You have to be at least 18-year-old and you have to be a licensed driver to be able to ride them. And input your financial information into your phone and stuff like that. And they got a little QR code on them that you scan the QR code and it unlocks the bike. And it makes a little song when it unlocks. And if you try to, so the Lime ones, if you try to move those without unlocking them, they actually, a robotic female voice starts screaming out of the bike's frame that she's going to call the police. So you don't want to move. I'm not convinced that the police are interested in investigating people moving Lime scooters from here to there, but it's probably enough of a deterrent.
I misidentified the clip we had a moment ago on the charger and the juicer. That was Kevin, not Bill. I think I called him Bill.
Yeah, I do like the juicer thing because that's sticking with the theme because theirs are Lime bikes, so they have juicers. They got a whole citrus fruit theme.
Could anybody just once you've gone through this process of activating the scooter, can anybody just basically hop on? I mean, would you recommend that someone who didn't have some experience on this kind of thing do it?
Well, I would recommend that you at least be somebody who has like good balance, because it's easy to fall. They feel like you could fall pretty easily, I guess, is the best way to put it. If you can ride a bicycle, though, I'd say you're probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and I guess older people probably ought to stay away from them, and they probably would anyway.
Well, I don't think they should, just because I'm all for older people ripping around on electric scooters all throughout my city.
All righty, there you go. Well, that's likely to happen. How are these things distributed around the city?
So some of the people that are chargers and juicers, what they'll end up doing is they go running around once the batteries are low enough, and they pick them up. I've talked to 2 different sets of chargers from Bird, and then I had somebody in a van come by my house from Lime. And the chargers and the juicers just pick them up and they take them back to their house and charge them back up, and then they drop them off the next morning in like designated areas that the company decides that they need to go to. So Bird apparently are still dropping all theirs off downtown right now. I think Lime has a few different drop-off points. You can find them in the Central West End. You can find them downtown too, like down by the Arch mostly. And then they also have, like, when it's not the juicers doing it, they have people that go around in, like, actual, like, trucks that are employees of Lime and Bird that scoop up as many of them as they can.
So they have a GPS component as well?
Yeah, that's actually how you find them. You pull up the Lime or Bird app, and it's got a map on there that shows the location of a whole bunch of different ones, and you can go to them and unlock them then.
Well, after all of this, and we only have about a minute left, after all of this, what is your overall early impression about this whole thing?
I think they're fun. I think they're reckless in execution and in just the way they ride and everything. There's just something kind of like nuts about all of it. I think probably a lot of people are going to end up getting hurt, but I think they'll probably have had a really good time before that happens anyway.
Do you think the companies have any liability if people do get hurt?
I am not sure how that goes. They got all their terms of service agreements and all their wear a helmet and stay on the sidewalk stuff before you even can unlock the bike. So I assume they covered themselves quite well.
I think so. Well, Daniel Hill of the Riverfront Times, thanks for being with us and telling us about your experience with these scooters. Sounds like fun up to a point to me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Archive versions of past St. Louis On the Air programs are available for download or podcast at stlpublicradio.org/stlonair. St. Louis On the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio 90.7 KWMU. Thank you for listening. I'm Don Marsh.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.